The room went quiet when you and Montague slid the file across the table. Inside was a plan so strange it sounded like a joke told too late at night. They wanted to win a war using a corpse, not a metaphor. An actual dead body, dressed as a soldier, carrying fake secrets, deliberately planted for the enemy to find, even by the unconventional standards of MI5. This crossed into madness. One officer reportedly stared at the proposal, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. Because if this absurd idea failed, it wouldn't just be embarrassing, it could cost thousands of real lives. And somehow, that was exactly why they considered it. Across the table, disbelief turned into an easy curiosity. The proposal came from Charles Chumley, a quiet planner known for odd ideas that sometimes worked a little too well. His logic was chillingly simple. If enemy intelligence could be convinced a fake invasion was real, they might move their defenses to the wrong place. The target of this deception wasn't just any opponent, it was Adolf Hitler and the vast military machine of Nazi Germany. The room shifted. This wasn't a prank, it was psychological warfare at its most theatrical, and the more they examined it, the more terrifyingly plausible it began to sound. The timing made the proposal even more desperate. Allied commanders were preparing a massive invasion that could shift the entire war, but its real destination, the island of Sicily, was painfully obvious on any map. It sat right in the path of an advance, practically announcing itself as the next target. Enemy scouts knew it. Enemy analysts knew it. Everyone knew it. Which meant thousands of soldiers would be sailing straight into defenses that were waiting, loaded, and aimed. The only way to change that fate was to make the enemy believe something impossible, that the invasion would happen somewhere else. And suddenly, the corpse plan didn't sound insane anymore. It sounded like the last move left on the board. There was just one problem. For the illusion to work, the body had to be discovered naturally by the right people, in the right place, under the right circumstances. That meant drifting ashore somewhere neutral but quietly watched, like the coast of Spain, where enemy agents operated in the shadows. The corpse would need an identity, a rank, a life story convincing enough to survive scrutiny from foreign intelligence and local officials. And not just any identity. They chose to disguise him as an officer of the Royal Marines, because if even one tiny detail looked staged, the entire illusion would collapse instantly, and the enemy would know they'd have been played. The point of no return arrived quietly, without ceremony, in a cold room in London. The man they chose couldn't volunteer, couldn't refuse, couldn't know. His name was Glyndwr, Michael, and in life, he'd been invisible. To the world now, he was about to become the center of one of the boldest deceptions ever attempted. They studied his face, his build, even his pockets, because every detail would have to withstand forensic curiosity. One wrong thread, one misplaced object, and the illusion would unravel. And what they did next crossed a line few plans ever reach. Stay with me, B, because this is where the absurd idea stopped being theory and became reality. They transformed him, piece by piece. The planners dressed him as Major William Martin, an invented officer whose entire life existed only on paper love letters in his pocket, theater stubs in his wallet, even a photograph of a fiancée who'd never met him. The details weren't decoration. They were bite. Officers from the Royal Navy sealed the documents inside a briefcase chained to his wrist, the kind of case no courier would willingly lose. Then, under darkness at sea, they released the body into the water and watched it drift away. No applause, no certainty, just silence, and the unbearable question hanging over them all. Would anyone believe this story? The reaction didn't happen at sea. It happened days later, on land, when fishermen spotted the body and authorities quietly took custody. Officials under Francisco Franco followed protocol on the surface, but behind the scenes, whispers began moving through channels connected to the Abwehr German military intelligence. The briefcase was examined. The papers were read, and most importantly, copies were made before anyone admitted they'd looked. Back in Britain, intelligence officers waited, pretending nothing unusual had occurred, while secretly watching for the smallest sign the bait had been taken. Because if the enemy reacted even slightly, it would mean the impossible had just happened. They hadn't questioned the story at all. What they were waiting for finally appeared, but not as a message, not as a confession. It showed up as movement. Intercepted intelligence began hinting that German command structures were quietly shifting attention away from the real target. Reports traced the ripple all the way to Berlin, where analysts inside the OKW were reassessing invasion predictions. Even more telling, double agent, who fed the Germans carefully crafted information, confirmed they were treating the planted documents as authentic. That was the detail no one expected. Not suspicion, not debate. Acceptance. And in deception, warfare. Belief is the moment a lie stops being fragile and starts becoming power. Then the confirmation arrived in the only language war planners truly trusted. Deployment orders. Reconnaissance revealed that divisions under the Wehrmacht were being redirected away from the real invasion zone and toward places like Greece and Sardinia, locations mentioned in the forged papers. 2 Allied command. This was staggering. General Dwight D. Eisenhower had been preparing for brutal resistance, yet now enemy strength was thinning where it mattered most. The absurd gamble, the corpse, the letters, the invented life had done. The unthinkable. It hadn't just fooled someone. It had reshaped an entire battlefield before the first soldier even landed. In July 1943, Allied troops stormed ashore in Sicily, and the nightmare they'd feared never came. Defenses were thinner than expected. Key armored units were missing, and the resistance that should have crushed the landing simply wasn't there. The deception had worked. Historians later confirmed that German leadership, convinced by the planted documents, had diverted forces to protect other regions of the Mediterranean Sea. Even Winston Churchill would later praise the operation's brilliance. The man who made it possible and known, uncelebrated in life, had altered the course of a global conflict without ever taking a step. The absurd decision to stage an invasion with a dead messenger didn't just succeed. It helped secure victory and hasten the downfall of Benito Mussolini soon after. What sounded like madness became strategy. And in war, sometimes the most unbelievable plan is the one no one thinks to doubt. History is full of moments like this, decisions that looked ridiculous at first, risky enough to be dismissed, yet bold enough to change everything. The truth is, reality doesn't always follow logic. It rewards imagination backed by courage. And the deeper you dig into documented events, the more you realize the world's most unbelievable stories aren't fiction at all, they actually happened. So if this story surprised you, just wait, because there are many more real events out there that sound impossible until you see the evidence.